Hi everyone, it's Ren here. I hope you guys are doing well. Um, it's actually been quite a while, I think, since we saw each other last. Must have been 10 days or something. I think that I published a video at the end of last week. No, sorry, at the beginning of last week. And I said, okay, like it's been quite busy for me because the reason why like this place looks different is because I'm actually like in Ireland now. So I've had to obviously move, settle in, catch up with my friends, and actually also kind of get the preparations sorted for work because I'm starting a new job next Monday, so in 2 days' time. So that's exciting, and I will be in central Dublin. I actually live a little bit outside Dublin at the moment. We'll see. I think that the distance is not too far away, so I'll be able to manage it. I've actually lived in this apartment before, and I'm sharing it with two Irish guys that, well, one of them is a long-time friend, ENFP actually, and the other, I have not quite figured out his type yet. He's probably like NFP or NTP. Not quite sure yet, and I still need to kind of figure out whether he's extroverted or introverted. But anyway, so this is not the topic of this video. I'm back, and I wanted to make a little video that was inspired by a conversation I had with a subscriber, uh, whose nickname is Philostam, and who identifies as INTP. We had an exchange in writing about, the use of cognitive functions. We had a brief exchange about the use of cognitive functions, and this got me thinking about this topic. And I would be quite interested to know what you guys think about how best to recognize the use of cognitive functions, of Jungian cognitive functions in other people. What do you think is like a pretty fail-safe way to say, okay, like this person is clearly a TI user, this person is a T user, or this person is an FI user, is an SE user, and then proceed from there, from the identification of these functions to the hierarchy of function use, so that would give the answer, to what type of person is. Because it's true that if you're a TI and FE user, if it's clear that you're a TI and FE user, like you can say this person uses TI and FE, that's not enough at all, like, to identify what type of person is. It could be ESFJ, could be ENFJ, could be ISFJ, could be ENTP, could be INFJ, so there's need for like a great deal more granularity, and the hierarchy of the function is very important. And what Philostam was saying was that we're talking about how function use manifests, and he was actually using my own example, saying that in his opinion I could sometimes come across as a kind of INTP because my FE is not as obvious as it would be in the case of maybe other INFJs on other channels. And I'm not saying that I disagree or agree, I just find this perspective very interesting, so I figured I'd share it here. And he was saying like that was principally because of the fact that a lot of the videos I make, even the videos where I want to share with people, with you guys, are kind of in some way or other, they're about me. Like, I talk about myself and I'm kind of self-absorbed, and that's fine. I embrace who I am. And it is true that maybe other INFJ YouTubers don't do that quite as much, and and so that was his example. But it got me thinking, because to me, what I was trying to say was that maybe we could try to distinguish between form and content when we tackle the types of other people. Because what a person is interested in, what they talk about, what they choose to address, it definitely can serve to put the finger on the particular type of a person, or at least it can give an indication. Someone who's very interested in like abstract mathematics, you're probably going to assume that this person is not likely to be like an ESFP, for example, although it's always possible. But this will guide you. But I think that the form is also very important and has to be taken into account, because at first sight you might think, well, the manner in which a person speaks and the body language that they have and the particular mannerisms that they have and just how they comport themselves, at a very instinctive level, you could say it's more superficial than the content. And I think to some extent it is more superficial. But it has an advantage over the content, which I think is that it's hard to fake. It's not that you fake the content, but what I mean is, it's if someone were to try to fake, say, like being an INFJ or being like an FE user, you'd notice it's not something that can easily be imitated. If someone is an FI dominant, like they're going to come across as an FI dominant. It's not possible to sustain an illusion of not being that, even if they sometimes create that illusion for themselves and are convinced there's something else. Like your function use and your pattern of function use, most of the time, if you're not like extremely unhealthy, is going to remain natural to your identity, to your function identity in this case. And what's different regarding the content is that I think that, you can't really say, well, this person uses FE because they have those interests. Helping others, for example, where there are lots of FI users that help others. In the humanitarian field where I worked for many years, I'm kind of done with that for now, at the moment. You'd be surprised, but there's many more FI users than FE users actually that I met personally, because those ideals that FI users have, they're not like self-centered particularly. Like they will have a particular form, of articulating it and relating to it, which is different from the form that FE users have. But they still want to implement it. They still want to, humanitarian missions, people who go to the field to help others, to contribute to development, defense of human rights. Absolutely a proliferation of FI users, a lot of NFPs, but not only. Not as many NFJs, Perhaps if you meet an INFJ or an ENFJ like in person, you'll think at first sight they're a bit more warm, or they exude a particular kind of warmth that's quite noticeable. It doesn't mean that, in terms of the content of what they defend, things will follow up. Not necessarily, Like they could be totally not interested in supporting humanitarian work or whatever. And maybe they could be interested, maybe they could be very self-absorbed, maybe less so ENFJs because they're extroverted judgers, and I think that self-absorption is less likely for extroverted judgers, but it's very possible for an INFJ to be like that. Similarly, I think, and I was trying to use that example as well in a message to Philstam, but you can see that in the case of writers, when people try to type writers based on the books that the writers write. I think it's insufficient, because it's possible to write a book that suggests that the writer is an INFJ or an INTP or something else, and then you realize that if you read the details of that person's life, that's not the case. In fact, a lot of what I write, I don't think is necessarily illustrative of an INFJ, or if it is, people would have to be very intricately aware of how an INFJ doesn't just choose what they want to write about, but how they're going to write. What is going to be the different kind of mechanisms that intersect throughout the work and how the work is written? Is there like a universal dimension to it? All these things, is there a bit of symbolism? Is there a bit of mysticism? Like these would be indications. But the topic, it can be anything, It could be the most self-absorbed thing, or it could be the most other-oriented thing, and I think that can sort of traverse all the possible different types. And so I think content is important. I'm not saying that content is not important if you want to identify a person's type. I'm just saying the form, as superficial as it can sometimes seem to be, if you're very intuitive, if you can recognize the signs and if you can feel the signs, sometimes I think it is the surest way of identifying a person's type. Now, I'm not saying that like I'm an INTP or an INFJ, I'm probably in between, probably a bit more INFJ, at least that's my opinion, but I definitely understand the suggestion that I have INTP tendencies. But what do you guys think? Do you think that when it comes to a person's type, identifying type, what is more important and what is more reliable is what the person talks about, the topics, the contents, or is it how? Is it the what they talk about, or is it the how of they express it and how they behave. All right, see you soon, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. Ciao.